Alright, so this video is going to talk about converting units. So first, we're just going to start off with some basic unit conversion. And to convert units, I use what I call conversion factors. So for an example conversion, we're going to take 4,600 microseconds and try to convert that into seconds. First thing to do is just write down the value you're starting with all of its units, so 4,600 microseconds. And then we're going to start to fill in a conversion factor. I've seen some people kind of draw like a line with different separators for each conversion factor like that, but it'll work just as well with fractions in parentheses like I'm going to do here. So the first step to any conversion factor is the units need to cancel. So what this means is if we want to get rid of this microseconds and replace it with seconds, this microseconds is in the numerator right now. So to cancel that out, our conversion factor needs microseconds in the denominator. And then we want to replace that microseconds with seconds, so we put that in the numerator. The second rule of conversion factors is the top of the conversion factor needs to equal the bottom of the conversion factor. So 60 seconds equals 1 minute and things like that. This little mu that you see in front of here, micro, means 1 millionth. This is called a metric prefix. You may have seen it with like kilometers or milligrams or milliseconds or things like that. Milli, centi, and kilo, I expect you to know. But micro, this one, I can do that better, is one that I would give to you. And when I give you these metric prefixes, I'm going to give them in this format. Micro means 10 to the negative sixth. So what this means is that 1 microsecond equals 10 to the negative sixth seconds. So if we want our top to equal our bottom, then 1 microsecond equals 10 to the negative sixth seconds. Be careful here, because a lot of people want to put that 10 to the negative 6 down here where the mu is. And the easiest way I can think of to remind you of this is that micro, that little mu, means 10 to the negative sixth. So the left side over here has a 10 to the negative sixth in this mu, and the right side has a 10 to the negative sixth just as a number. But once we have everything plugged in there, now we can kind of cancel our units. These microseconds cancel out, which means we did kind of step 1 here correctly. And all we're left with is seconds, which is good because that's what we want. So now all we need to do is multiply out what we have in our conversion factor, all of the numbers. So we have 4,600 times 10 to the negative sixth, and that will give us our answer. So just count some decimal places here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we'll end up with 2 zeros back over here. Or you can just plug this into your calculator and find out that you get 0.0046 seconds. Seconds because that's the unit we have left here. And that is this entire conversion. So not really much else to do with this one. Just be careful following this process. I know a lot of you will want to do it in your head, but get in the habit of writing these down and going through all of the steps until you get really good at it, because every once in a while, even I try to go the wrong direction with one of these conversions. So let's clear ourselves some space here and start the next example, which is going to be units with fractions. So a lot of units have fractions in them. A good example of this is any speed you've ever traveled in your car. For example, 25 miles per hour, we might need to convert that into meters per second, because meters per second is our SI unit of speed and velocity. The first step is still the same. Start off with the value you start with, and I'm going to write it like this. 25 miles per hour. So that's what per means. That's a fraction sign in there. So miles on the top, hours on the bottom. Now we follow our same process. But just as an example, let's do this a slightly different way. So first one, we want to get rid of miles. So we're going to put that in the denominator because miles starts in the numerator. And we want to go to meters. But let's say that I don't know how many meters there are in 1 mile. So maybe I can go either, if I'm at home, I can look that up on Google. But if I'm not, or if I'm taking a test or a quiz, I'm going to need to find something I do remember. So maybe, for whatever reason, I remember that 1.6 kilometers equals 1 mile. So we can use that and change that miles into a kilometers, because we know 1.6 kilometers equals 1 mile. So note that all we've done is change this from miles per hour to kilometers per hour. So we still haven't even converted all the way to meters for our numerator. But we can just do a second step. So now we have kilometers in our numerator, so we want to get rid of that. Put the kilometers in the denominator there, and we want to replace it with meters. I didn't know how many meters were in 1 mile, but I know how many meters are in 1 kilometer. There are 10 to the 3 meters in 1 kilometer, because kilo, K, equals 1,000, or 10 to the 3. So again, the denominator here already has the K, the metric prefix. So that means that the number, the 10 to the 3, goes on the top. So now we have converted from miles to kilometers and now to meters in the numerator. Now we have to handle the denominator. So the first thing we want to do is get rid of that hours. So the hours is in the denominator, so this time we need to put our hours in the numerator so that they cancel out. Now if you know that there are 3,600 seconds in an hour, you can just do this in 1 step, but I'm going to show you how to do it in 2 steps, because maybe I don't remember that. But all of you should know that there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. And then with a different color here, the hours are canceling out, and now we have minutes. So again, now we want to get rid of that minutes and replace it with seconds. Minutes is in the denominator, so we need minutes in our numerator, and we want to replace it with seconds, so we'll put seconds in our denominator, and there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. That's another one I expect you to know. And then, where are we here? Minutes cancels with minutes. And then the only units we have left are meters on the top and seconds on the bottom, so that means we're done. All we have to do now is just plug this into our calculator. It would look something like this. So 25 times 1.6 times 1,000, or 10 to the 3, divided by 60, divided by 60. So you plug it into your calculator just like this, no parentheses required. And if you do this, it spits out the number 11.1. And then the only units we have left are meters on the top and seconds on the bottom. And that is our final answer. You might notice if you plug this conversion into Google that it actually gives you 11.2. That's because this 1.6 up here is a little bit of an approximation. I believe it's actually 1.609, but this would be close enough for most of the stuff we'll do in class. So you can actually go even more elaborate ways to get from one unit to another if you want to go to other units in between. For example, let's just focus on the miles here. Let's do 25 miles per hour again, and then just a little faster this time. First, I'm going to get rid of the hours, and replace it with seconds, because by now, maybe I remember that there's 3,600 seconds in an hour, so that gets our hours to cancel and leaves us with seconds in the denominator. But maybe I really don't even remember that there's 1.6 kilometers in a mile. Maybe all I really remember is that some of you might remember 2.54 centimeters is 1 inch. Or maybe you don't even remember that, but a ruler is 30 centimeters long, and that's approximately equal to 12 inches. Now, just turns out that these two conversion factors are pretty close to each other, but this one is the actual conversion, so I'll go with that. So if this is the only one I remember off the top of my head, we can slowly start to make our way there. We want to cancel out our miles, and maybe, if I remember, there's 5,280 feet in 1 mile. And then in every 1 foot, there are 12 inches. And like we just said below, 1 inch is equal to 2.54 centimeters. And then we can kind of keep going from here. So to keep track of what units have canceled so far, we have canceled out miles into feet, feet into inches, inches into centimeters. And then there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter. And that's it. We're all the way to meters. So this is clearly a much more roundabout way to get there than we did before. And if you know the direct conversion, 1,609 meters in a mile, you can just use that. And I would suggest you just look that up on a homework problem, but get familiar with working through this whole process. So even doing it this different way, I'm going to plug it into my calculator now. Here's what I'm plugging in. Oops. I want to put this in black here. There we go. So now I'm putting in 25 divided by 3,600 times 5,280 times 12 times 2.54 divided by 100. And usually you need to show units in your work at least most of the time, but we've already showed all of our units up here, so there's no need to show them in this step down there. But that is exactly what I'm plugging into my calculator right now. And everything went right. Yep, now I'm getting 11.2 meters per second, because that's the only units we have left. So it turns out that remembering this 2.54 over here was actually more accurate than the 1.6 kilometers per mile. But either way, you can see that we're close enough to where the answers are effectively the same. So those are approximately equal to each other. And there's one more kind of unit conversion you need to know, and that is area or volume conversions. Or rather, just any units with powers. So to do this, we're going to start with 2,800 cubic centimeters, or centimeters cubed, and we're going to try to convert that into meters cubed, which would be the SI unit for volume. So the process is very similar. Start with your first value and start to write a conversion factor. So we want to get rid of the centimeters on the top, so we need centimeters on the bottom in our conversion factor, and we want to replace it with meters. And I kind of skipped over this on the last one, but C is centi, which means 10 to the negative 2. So we could say that 1 centimeter equals 10 to the negative 2 meters. Again, the left side here has the letter for the metric prefix, so the right side gets the number. Or maybe we just remember off the top of our head that 100 centimeters are in 1 meter. Either of these two will work, we just have to pick one. I think most of you are probably more familiar with the 100 centimeters in 1 meter, and I've demonstrated the metric prefix stuff somewhere else, so you can check it out there if you're still confused. And then we get to this point right here. So we are not yet done here. And that's because of this cubed right up here. So you might remember, say for example, y cubed is y times y times y, and that means centimeters cubed is centimeters times centimeters times centimeters. So this conversion factor we have here can only cancel out one of these three. It can't cancel out all three of them. So we have a couple different ways to handle this. One of them I'll show in red first, and then I'll kind of show you the other way. You can just cube the whole conversion factor. Cubed because the centimeters is cubed. If it were centimeters squared, we'd only put a squared here. But what that cubed up there means is we need to cube everything inside of here. So 1 meters, 100, and the centimeters would all have to be cubed. So if you're uncomfortable with distributing a power into a fraction that has units, then you can always do it a different way that I'm going to show now. Since our unit is cubed, we can just do this conversion factor 3 times. So each time it's the same conversion factor, 1 meter equals 100 centimeters. And now we have centimeters times centimeters times centimeters in the denominator, cancels out with centimeters cubed in the numerator. So now what we have left is meters times meters times meters, or meters cubed, and that's what we want. So again, we can just plug this right into our calculator. So 2800 divided by 100, divided by 100, divided by 100, and plug that right into our calculator to get 0.0, let's check this. So divided by 100 would bring the decimal to there, divided by 100 again, divided by 100 again. So we should have 2 zeros after the decimal, 0.0028 meters cubed. And that would be our final answer, making sure to show our units on our final answer. If you did it the other way by cubing the conversion factor, you might end up plugging something like this into your calculator, 100 cubed, where just the 100 is cubed, not the 2800. Either way will give you the same answer. So if the original unit were squared, for example, meters squared, then you would do the conversion twice. Here we had a unit cubed, so we did the conversion 3 times. And you can kind of start to combine some of these things. Let's go to this horrible green color again, where you might have, say, the units of, I'm not sure where that moved. Go back. Okay. Where you might have a unit that looks something like this, say kilograms per meters cubed, and maybe you want to convert that into grams per centimeter cubed. So you'd convert the kilograms to grams on the top, and then to convert that meters cubed to centimeters cubed, you'd follow the same process that we did here. And that handles just about every type of unit conversion we can do. Again, just want to make sure nobody's stealing my stuff, so we'll throw the copyright on here at the end. There is one more video. It's about trigonometry and Sohcahtoa, and hopefully you will check that one out as well and consult them as you need them during the term.